Good morning and welcome to the CS Week 311 Synergy Group webinar. I'm your moderator for today, and it's Rob Klatchik from the City of Edmonton. Before we get started, I just want to give you a bit of a highlight of the 311 Synergy Group for those of you that are perhaps new to it. We're an industry networking group, and we do a lot of information sharing, hopefully educate each other and share, and we have a little bit of fun. This group is open to all municipalities with an interest in 311 or centralized customer service. So be sure to join us on this group. Continue to join us. This year, the chairperson is Esther Tenenbaum she's a division manager at the City of Albuquerque. And I'm pleased to have Esther with us this year as we plan our conference. So this year, the 311 Synergy Group is going to be getting together for 3 days of packed discussions and information exchange from May 4th through 6th. And we're going to have a little bit of a highlight of that in just a moment. And I encourage you to register on the CS Week 311 Synergy Group website. And if there's a lot of details there as well. And we do a lot of our communications on LinkedIn under the 311 Synergy Group, and we have over 260 members on that group. I'm now going to pass it over to Stacy Palmer, who's on the planning committee for the conference, and she's going to give a bit of an overview of the conference. Passing over to Stacy now.
Thank you, Rob. Hi, again, my name is Stacy Palmer, and I'm the IT manager for CHARMEC 311 here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Last year was the first time I was able to attend the 311 Synergy Conference. So I'll be perfectly honest, when I went down there, I really didn't know what to expect. But within just a couple of hours, I realized that I was making some fantastic networking contacts. I found out that Donna Williams-Orman, for instance, in Richmond, Virginia, and I were in exactly the same boat. We were both in the RFP process to obtain a CRM. I quickly latched on to Donna and started picking her brain like crazy, about where they were in the process, and got some very valuable insights and tips, for how I should proceed. I also met a whole bunch of other folks, Andy Bamoni in San Francisco, Neil Evans in Toronto, and the list goes on and on and on. One of the huge benefits of attending the conference is to build your networking contacts. I was so impressed with the event that I told my boss, Janice Quintana, that I would be happy to help her plan next year's event, which, as you see, is going to be May 4th through the 6th in the beautiful city of San Antonio. We have a jam-packed agenda this year that I know everybody is going to enjoy, so I wanted to give you a very brief rundown of what you can expect. If you're lucky enough to go to the spring session, after we do a quick round of introductions, we're going to launch into a fun, fast-paced exercise that I will be facilitating. What we're going to do is we are going to identify the challenges that we all face today in the 311 universe. And then we're going to break up into groups and help brainstorm some realistic solutions to those challenges. With all the brain power that's going to be in that room, I have absolutely no doubt that we will be able to solve world hunger. So I know we're going to come up with some great stuff. As I already told you, I am the IT manager, so I have a pretty intense love-hate relationship with technology. Well, maybe not hate so much as I get very angry with it sometimes. But I do know that there is an awful lot of new technology on the horizon that we can harness more efficiently and more effectively to help serve our citizens. So we're going to have some learning lounges. And what this means is we'll break up into groups and we'll circulate through some tabletop discussions on topics such as Twitter and Facebook and CRM and mobile apps, and talk about how we can leverage these things to provide our citizens with timely information using all these different mediums. I am also personally very much looking forward to the ICMA segment we're going to have, where we are going to hear Corey Fleming talk about how to build customer service into local government. And we are also, I can't wait for this part, we are going to be going on a tour of San Antonio's Emergency Operations Center, which houses their 311 public safety and Office of Emergency Management units. I know that every time I tour another center, I always walk away with at least 2 or 3 things that I can use or slightly modify to make our shop more efficient and effective. So I can't wait to see some of the things that San Antonio's doing. If you don't know what Code for America is, you guys are in for a real treat. One of the other things on the agenda is we are going to be watching a TED Talk video on what Code of America is and how it works. To become a Code of America city, you have to apply for that. And San Antonio and Charlotte were 2 of the cities that were selected this year to be Code of America cities. It's really quite an honor, and so I can't wait to talk more about what this is. I'm sure my counterparts in San Antonio are just as excited as I am about this, so more to come on that. And then it goes without saying that we're going to get a big Texas welcome from San Antonio's executive leadership. You know what they always say, things are always bigger in Texas. So I'm very much looking forward to meeting my cowboy counterparts, and I'm sure we'll come up with some a good conversation around our shared Code for America topics. 311 provides a ton of data to our respective cities to help them manage the business. And so I think it's very important that we also collect information about ourselves and share it with each other. So we are aware of the similarities between us, trends, emerging solutions, et cetera. So another item on the agenda is the annual 311 comparative survey. I'm a pretty big data nerd, so this session is definitely going to appeal to me. Now, in addition to that, we are going to have our inaugural 311 technology survey. As if that comparative survey wasn't enough, several months ago, Andy Mamoni reached out to me and to Kelly Baker in Provo, Utah, and invited us to help him put together a 311 technology survey. We have finished it not too long ago, and we pushed it out. You guys should have all received it. So please, 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 please take the time to fill that out. And on the agenda this year, we will go over the results of that survey as well. And then we will wrap up the conference by awarding the 311 Synergy Award of Excellence. This one is going to be particularly near and dear to my heart since the city of Charlotte was lucky enough to win the award last year. As a matter of fact, it was so exciting to be the recipient of last year's award that I am going to be dropping the gauntlet to everyone who attends. I have every intention of taking back the crown next year, so I'm going to be challenging everyone to bring it next year, because Charlotte intends to take it back. So if you haven't yet signed up to attend the spring meeting, you need to get moving. Come join us for a very fun-filled time where you will meet others. We're going to talk about relevant issues and hopefully get some creative juices flowing on how we can resolve them. I look forward to seeing everybody in San Antonio. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. Stacy was talking a little bit about the Award of Excellence. So what we're looking for, and the deadline for submissions is March 7th. And as Stacy mentioned, we recognize one centralized government customer service, and we're looking for people that consistently demonstrate a customer-focused approach to improving local government services. And as part of if you are one of the winners, you would get a complimentary registration and up to 5 reduced registrations to attend. So it's important to get your registration in soon, and you can go to the CS Week website to do that. I think you may have noticed that we're trying something new this time on our webinar, and we've had a poll out from the beginning, and we're going to have another poll about the mobile apps. So we've been asking if people are going to be attending in San Antonio, and so far we've got 11 people saying yes, and a few, 4 that say no, and 5 that are working on it. So keep working on it, and we would be glad to have you join us. So now we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit to talk a little bit about mobile apps, more than a phone call. We have 3 panelists today. We've got Mary Jutte, the Contact Center Manager from City of Greensboro in North Carolina. We've got Chris Hobson, the Division Manager from City of Sacramento in California, and Leslie Hamm, the Director of MC311 in Montgomery County, Maryland. And we've got a really exciting group here wanting to share some of their thoughts. And, you know, some of the things considering when you're thinking about going mobile, you really need to make sure that this is what's in it for you, what's in it for your customers, because it's not just about the technology and being cool. So we also want to, provide customers with additional communication channels to get the information or make requests. And I think the interesting thing is right now a lot of the mobile apps are focused on making requests, but I think there's a huge opportunity in how people get information. And we all know that 311s and centralized service are as much about information as they are about service requests. And you want to target customers on the go with information and services anytime and anywhere. That's the benefit, and obviously it encourages customers to utilize a cost-efficient channel. And it offers the opportunity to capture some email addresses that may be used for other purposes as well. So I'm going to pass it along right away to Leslie, and she's going to just walk us through some other points. And I'm going to close the poll right now. And right now we have 13 people saying they're going to attend and 6 working on it. So thanks for sharing your thoughts on the conference as well.
Thank you, Rob. All right, so we're going to speak just a little bit about what some of the considerations are for going mobile. I've got 4 here that we've been taking a look here at Montgomery County, but I'm sure these are pretty widespread across decision-making metrics and such. First of all would be your organization's mobile application policy. So here in Montgomery County, we just finalized ours last April, and it's got some great information for anyone in the county who's interested in offering a mobile app to the customers. Of course, here at 311, we're looking at doing something like that, although we initially had done something different. But we also have some departments, our highway services, solid waste services, that kind of thing, who are also interested. And so what does that look like, and what are the considerations? The other piece is that integration with the department mobile apps. If we're really looking at having this 311 being the single and true point of record for requests and information, we would like everything to funnel through that record. So how is that happening? It's actually one of the criteria in our mobile app policy for departments to consider is that we have a way to get that data in the 311 record. Another thing to consider is, do you have the resources available to manage the request for information and services via non-phone and web channels? You know, how is that going to be handled? Here, because we're not using an app, we're using a mobile-enabled portal. Anything created on that mobile-enabled portal actually goes straight back to the department. It doesn't come through 311. It goes back to the responsible department. So it may have changes in how the responsible departments interact with 311 or interact with customers. So those are some of the considerations. Stacy talked a little bit about the 311 comparative study that we're going to be learning more about at this year's spring meeting at the beginning of May. I pulled a couple of slides from the 311 comparative study from calendar year 2012 that was initiated and managed at the Minneapolis 311 with Dawn Stickney and Dawn, I hope I'm saying this right, Misenik. And so we're going to share just a couple of slides of the information that they were able to gather for the year 2012. So if you take a look at this chart and you look all the way to the right, you can see at that point about 56% of the respondents were actually using a mobile app. And you can look across the bottom to give other types of options that people have, things like online self-service, web chat, and text. Some other information that they discovered in that comparative study is that calls, emails, and the online self-service really were the predominant contact methods available. And I'm going to imagine that that's probably pretty similar still, but we'll find out when the new survey comes out in May. Half or more of all the centers also offered mail, fax, mobile applications, outbound calling, social networking. So at least half of the folks are looking at other new opportunities. We're actually doing that here in Montgomery County, taking a look at using social media to accept requests for service here in the county. 48% said that they do outbound calling. 85% had online self-service, so that's clearly very popular. And then several respondents, and this is a good 2 years ago, responded that they had mobile apps in development. The most common services that were available on the mobile apps were related to streets, maintenance, lighting, traffic, infrastructure, garbage and recycling, and that's the same here as well. Those tend to be our #1 service requests, and I'd throw in there transit as well. All right, so as Rob mentioned, we're trying some new things with this webinar, and we're going to have another poll now. You should see it over on your right-hand side. We want to find out what you're doing currently. So we just heard the statistics from 2010. We're interested in seeing, at least from our 42 participants that are currently participating in the webinar, what are you currently doing? Do you offer a mobile app or mobile-enabled portal for customers to access 311? And if yes, is it with a third-party vendor or homemade? Did you buy or build? So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to complete that, that would be great. And then we're going to be sharing the results here in a few minutes. All right, so while you're doing that, how we've structured our presentation today is really a tale of 3 cities. So we're going to start with Mary Jutte. They've got an upcoming launch, or it may be in process now as we speak, of a new mobile app. Then we're going to hear from Chris Hobson from Sacramento. They actually launched a mobile app, and so they've got some historical data, and Chris has got some really great information about how they track usage and what the application is used for. And then I'm going to be going last to talk about how we took a different route, at least for now, and using a mobile-enabled app. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Jutte from Greensboro, North Carolina.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The city of Greensboro has not quite launched yet, but we plan to do so as soon as we can get in front of council and let them know exactly what we're going to be putting out there for their constituents. We have partnered with SeeClickFix to do this app, so this is a third-party vendor that we've gone with. We've been at this for about 1.5 years trying to get this ready to go. We did a full RFP and went through that process. We already, interestingly enough, had people using the generic version of SeeClickFix, and so that was part of our decision, was that we were already engaging with a few folks around the city in that method, and we wanted to continue with that, and as well as them being the best response to the RFP. We've spent a lot of time on this. We're really excited about it. It's going to be another channel for us. We do think it's going to catch us people who otherwise will not communicate with us, that don't want to make phone calls, that don't want to come into City Hall to talk to us. So we're real anxious to see what kind of volumes we get, and I'll be interested in what everyone else who's already done something is seeing. We do the normal array of contacts here. We have phone calls and walk-ins. We have email, voicemail. We already have a self-serve on the website, but this clearly is going to bring us a different demographic, and then there's the social media side to it, which is really, really interesting. We have chosen, as we were talking, we want to make sure that this shows up in our 311 app, and that all the contacts and all the requests are congregated somewhere for the data mining purposes of it, and so that we're all using the same methods. So we have fully integrated this with the Contact Center CRM. Our CRM is homegrown and proprietary to us, so that's been a lot of our process, is getting that ready to go and making sure that we can talk back and forth to the SeeClickFix website and get the information back and forth in a smooth way and manage it through the Contact Center CRM without us having to go to the website and doing it directly there. We are really, really interested in what this is going to do as far as the social media implications. We've already seen some of this. As I said, people are using the generic app, and there have been a few somewhat contentious conversations that have occurred in the app already in terms of something that perhaps the city is not responsible for, and the sense that some of those users expect us to respond to absolutely everything that they put in there, whether it's something that the city does or not. That at that point we are now charged with taking that on and doing something about it. So even if it's another utility or another, like the county rather than the city, they are expecting us to do something with their issue, which has proven to be a little bit challenging for us as we don't always have those contacts. The other thing we've seen is some contentious conversations amongst people using the app when someone made sort of a slur about a particular neighborhood and they got into it, talking back and forth about whose neighborhood was best and why this was a good neighborhood and how dare you talk that way about mine. So it's been really, really interesting to watch how that goes, and while we're nervous about it, we also think it's a great way for us to engage with our residents a little bit more than what we're able to do now. So we're also interested in how this affects our processes. We've already seen a little bit of a change. We have some of our operational groups who are used to closing work orders before the work is really done, because they're putting it on some kind of a scheduled or PM list that they're going to. They know they're already going to fix that street, so they're not going to fill this pothole because they know they're repaving next week. And that's fine. It's just that we're trying to get them trained that when they close, they need to tell us in their comments on the work order that that's what they're doing, so that we can relay that to the person who's made the request and possibly leave that request open a little bit longer. We are excited about the little logo that shows on the screen that you're seeing right now. Is something we worked on for a long time. We have a couple of other apps in process. We're looking at a trail map that will let people use our city and regional parks and interact with each other through that map or through that app. And then we're also working on one that's a service finder that will let people look up when their garbage day is, what's the closest library, what are those hours, how can I, what's at a park near me, or if I want to find a specific thing at a park, where would I go? And so we're working on those. We wanted them all to look the same when the apps show up in the various stores. So we came up with this stylized logo that we have, and then we'll just change out what you see here is the wrench. For the trails, I think it's an image of somebody hiking and so forth as we do more and more apps in the city so that they look consistent. We do plan to do a soft launch where we'll put this in the stores first, and then we're going to do the advertising to get it out after we've played with it for a couple weeks to be sure it's really working right. But we're real excited about it, and we can hardly wait to see it. We do have some buttons on the app that will allow people to press a single button and call the contact center. They also can talk to city council with a one-button push and get to their representative and communicate with them if they feel like they want to do that. So should be very interesting. We expect to be live in March. And with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, so hey everybody, this is Chris from the city of Sacramento. So our app is actually, it was built with an outside consultant a little over a year ago. So we have some information on who's been using it, how it's been used, and then some kind of talk about how we pushed usage. So ours is kind of a hybrid between a internally built app and one that we bought because we did a lot of internal IT work, and then we also had a company actually build the apps and the web apps. So when we're looking at build versus buy, one of the things that was big for us is, how customized can it be? Is it going to meet our organizational needs? And is it going to have the specific service options and information that matter to our residents? So, when you go with an off-the-shelf app, you're somewhat locked into the service requests that they have built, and then the ubiquitous other option. So what we looked at was, what would we do if our needs didn't align with the off-the-shelf app? So if we had some type of service request that was, a big thing in our organization that simply wasn't there with a C-Click Fix or Public Stuff or whoever else might be in that space. So that's one of the reasons why we ended up going with a custom app, is because we were able to get pretty much every single service request that a resident could call in within our app. So even things that are relatively minor, relatively detailed are in there. So one example of this that's actually just come to light in the last month and a half or so is the drought that we're going through in Sacramento. So in this whole region, the municipalities are all calling for stage 2 drought controls, which means you can only water one day a week, you can't let water flow into the gutter, and a bunch of other things. So that went from being 60 calls a month to being about 1,400 calls a month. And everybody around the city of Sacramento has an app, right? But ours is the only custom app. The other ones are either Public Stuff or C-Click Fix, and there's no way within those apps to report water wasting or water use complaints. So a lot of the municipalities are coming to us right now and asking us, how did you get this ability to report your water use through the app? And it comes down to the fact that we went with a custom built app versus an off the shelf, and it allowed us to have things like water use complaints built into it that you don't see with the other ones because they're not a big deal, and it's not something that applies to most places in the country. It's really kind of a Western thing when we have droughts. So it's something to think about when you're looking at, do we go with a third party, do we build our own, is what's specific and what's unique to your community and what do you need to have in that app. So the next thing I wanted to talk about were some of the things we did to build a user base. So really there's 3 things that we've done here. The first is direct mail. We do a thing with our utilities department where we can have bill stuffers inserted into their bills. We spend about $2,000 total for 100,000 mailers that are going directly to utilities customers. That's big for us because a phone call is about $5. So anything we can get into an app channel for less than that's a win. And our biggest call has to do with solid waste complaints, trash being missed, scheduling new cans to be delivered, those kind of things that you see with solid waste. So being able to reach them for this low of a cost is pretty big, and we're able to, build a flyer that speaks directly to those things that a resident would need. So the other way that we've been pushing the app is through media. So both traditional and social. So whenever we have something about a type of service that the city does, whether it's through a local paper or television station, we always make a concerted effort to mention how it can be done through the 311 app. So it's amazing the amount of lift that we get when we have local television discuss things and tell people they can go to the app. We had a big solid waste service change back in July, and we pushed pretty hard in all the interviews to sign up for alerts through the app. And we saw a huge increase in the app usage, and specifically to signing up for alerts. Additionally, we do the same thing through social and digital. Our city has a blog that they use that gets pretty good readership, and then we have a lot of kind of local online newspapers in the area. And once again, whenever there's anything city service related, we always push the ability to use the app and the different ways that it helps us to get service requests in better. And then finally, the last thing that we're doing is around advertising. One of the ones that we started just about a month ago is doing some online advertising through Google AdWords. So we target stuff just in Sacramento, and we look at ads that are going to cost less than $1 per click that are related to things like solid waste and street lighting. The idea being that if I'm on my smartphone and I'm searching for something, or if I'm on my desktop and I'm searching for my garbage was missed, you need to talk to me. You need to see the app. You're using the right kind of tool. You're on a computer or a phone. Let's get you a link directly to our web app and have you submit it that way, and have that be the way to report things to the city. And we have some numbers about that on the next slide. But the other thing that we've done that we've seen some pretty impressive results from is simply having app messaging within our automated system in our IVR. We recently did that for our drought and then also for a rain event that we had. And what we saw was that, we saw a 4% increase in customers who were getting their question answered in that main prompt that mentioned the app. So it was a really big bump, and it really took took the place of one CSR taking phone calls by redirecting people to the app. So one of the things that we track are new user signups. So I track this on a weekly basis. We trend this out. And what we see is we started doing AdWords the first week of January, right when we saw a bump from about 140 to 150 signups per week up to near 200. So we're getting about 300 clicks per week on our AdWords campaign, and it looks like we're converting about 50 of those clicks to users. We've only spent, I think, about $400 total to get 50 more users per week. So we're getting users for about $1.50 per person, which is far less than our $5 per call. So it's not a huge volume, but it's slowly going to build. And as someone downloads it, they're a new user, it's on their phone, and it makes it that much more sticky for them to use some sort of app versus knowing to call us. So for the price, I think if you can be targeted with an AdWords campaign, that's a pretty effective way to build some volume on an app. So the next thing to talk about is kind of some reporting and feedback. We do pretty much weekly surveys of app users to get their opinion on what features they think would be good and how they rate the app. Because we're able to make changes to it, changes to verbiage, fix issues, or even add new features when necessary. Part of the benefit of having an app through it, kind of a custom app, is we can do that. So the biggest thing here is to set up metrics that you want to target, and then track them and keep an eye on them, and do things when you're making changes that you believe are going to positively impact those metrics you're looking at. So a big one is usage rates. We look at the percentage of reports by problem type, and then, as we just showed you, new users. So in our user feedback surveys, we're looking for what do they like about it, what do they dislike, and what do they want. And then we use that want section to drive what we're going to put into the app next. So a piece of this was, we found out people wanted to have alerts about their garbage. So we were able to build that into the app, and we saw huge, customer results from it. I think we're sending out something like 5,000 to 6,000 notifications the night before your garbage is supposed to go out. And, look at those and build from there and, really identify the ones that are driving your call volume and then figure out how you get that in the app. So the next slide here is looking at some usage rates. So we divide our calls really into two categories. Those are calls for information and calls for service. So you can see kind of to Rob's point from earlier is that service is really what our app was built for, not so much information. So for information, you can see that big bump. That was when we launched our text alert campaign for solid waste. It ended up being 10% of all of our info calls and then trailed off as the campaign dwindled down. But service is the one that we're really shooting for. We're going for 20% of our service calls and 20% of our info calls to be handled through the app. We're actually pretty close on service calls. I think we're at about 17.5% this month. And we started pushing that really towards the end of December. And, we've seen, just from doing the advertising and putting it in the IVR, we went from about 11% in December all the way up to 17% in February. And week over week, it keeps improving because of what we're doing with our advertising. And then one of the last things that we look at here is, usage rates for some common problems. This gives us an idea of, do we need to look at the way the pages are built for specific types of problems? Is it easy to work through our menu and understand what we need? Or is it easier to call us? And, some things are simply easier to make a phone call and some things is easier through the app. So, when we look at this, we see like our water use complaint, which is our drought thing from earlier. We're doing about 30% when this was made, it's 37% now, of all of our drought complaints are being done through the app. And like I said, we're doing 1,400 of those a month now. So it's a really big number. It's about 400 or 500 that are coming through the app, whereas our counterparts in the county and in the other outlying cities don't have that benefit. So they're taking 100% of those calls through the phone right now, or through another option in their app that creates a lot of work for an agent to go through those and have to read them and understand what somebody wants. So the last thing I wanted to close with, and it's not a slide here, but just kind of thinking about what happens as an app grows in volume, is you need to understand how are you going to respond to them if you don't get the information you need. On a phone call, it's easy to have an agent ask questions and get all the info, but when it comes through in an app, and especially if you just have an open box for somebody to type into, you're not always going to get the information you need, and you have to have a way to easily get back with the customer and clarify that information and then get a good work order out to your service partners. So that's actually something that we're working on right now and working through how we're going to deal with that as the app volume continues to grow. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leslie.
Great, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
All right, this is Leslie Hamm from Montgomery County. As I mentioned earlier, the county just completed our mobile application policy last April. And prior to that, we actually launched our web portal the same day that we launched the call center in June of 2010. And so we decided to, in order to get this in folks' smartphones and that kind of thing, that we were going to go ahead and go for a mobile-enabled portal rather than an app. So we had one of our folks who was detailed here from our Technology Services Department, Scott Coble, work on this. He used the HTML5. It is a thin client server-based program. When a mobile user tries to access the county's website, they're automatically redirected to the mobile version of the site that includes the 311 web portal. One of the goals, of course, was leveraging what we already really liked about our web portal. For instance, our web portal pulls from the same knowledge base that's used by our call center. So when that knowledge base is updated here, it's automatically updated in our portal, so it's less work. When a customer creates a request for service on the web, that request actually goes directly to the department responsible for fulfilling the service, which is nice because then 311 doesn't have to be involved for it. Chris alluded to this as far as trying to get the correct information that we need or the county needs to actually fulfill the service. So we're able to take advantage, using the mobile-enabled portal, take advantage of the structured information and the template that already exists in the mobile app, so that the departments get, they say, here's the required information. If it's a pothole, what's the intersection, that kind of thing, how big is it. We ask for all of that information, and they can complete that right on their mobile device. And that way it makes fulfilling the service easier. So there isn't a lot of back and forth, or you didn't really tell us this, or you didn't really tell us that. The other piece is that the service locations entered by the user are verified through the GIS layer to assure that the Montgomery County is actually the responsible agency to handle this. Here in Montgomery County, it's a rather large county size-wise, but we have roads, many roads that are state roads. We have county roads. We have homeowners associations. I think we have 27 different municipalities. Some take care of the roads, some don't. So this helps sort of manage the customer's expectation. If they're putting something in, for instance, for a state road, it's not going to verify, and they won't be able to continue on, and they'll get a message about that. And then also, one of the things that we wanted to have, at least initially, is we didn't want our mobile-enabled portal just to be available to create services. We also wanted it available just for general information. So customers can access, in addition to requesting services, they can also access general information, much as they would if they called us here at the call center. In addition to this being a low-cost and really low-effort way to go, it allowed us to take advantage of those benefits of our existing web portal. They can access the portal from their mobile devices. They don't have to go to iTunes, Google Play, etc. The other thing is that we didn't need to really create different versions for different platforms, so that customers could use the mobile-enabled portal for general information and request services without doing that. In addition, we don't have to pay any type of development or maintenance fees, as it is supported in-house. One of the things, and I was really fascinated by what Chris is doing now for tracking usage statistics. We haven't done this yet, but it's in our pipeline to work on developing a way to determine, we can determine the types of service requests that are actually created on the web, but we're not currently able to distinguish between desktop and the mobile-enabled portal. So that's one of the things that we're working on. All right, so we talked a little bit about what we're doing in three different, actually, I guess, 2 cities and a county. And we wanted to find out a little bit more about what you're doing with mobile apps. So hopefully you've had time to take the poll. And I think that Rob is actually going to be posting the results for that.
Yeah, I'm just in the process of finishing it up. And hopefully you can see it. So we had 16 people say that they're offering a mobile app. 11 said they were not, and 9 did not answer. And so of those that said they have an app, 60% said they had one that answered. And for the most part of those that said yes, 78% of them said they were doing it through a third party. So is there any questions you'd like to offer up to the panelists?
Okay. Looks like there was one question that Chris handled that.
So Chris, maybe just speak a little bit about your concept of where you hope to go with info calls.
Yeah, so one of it kind of goes to another issue that we have with our knowledge base is, I would like to be able to do what Leslie was talking about and have our knowledge base be open to the public, through the app and through the web. That's kind of what we actually had a conversation about this just about a week and a half ago. Right now we have a 311 app. There's our parking groups talking about having a parking app. There's obviously cities that have Parks and Recs app, and there's bus apps. So what we want to try to avoid is having 8 apps for the city of Sacramento, or however many different departments want to put out an app, and have a City of Sacramento app that has, make your requests for service. That's effectively 311. Be able to look for city information, and that would be through our knowledge base, and those would be our info calls. But then we also want to have things that we don't even do right now. Like if you need to schedule or reserve a space at a park, you have to go down to a counter somewhere and fill out a PDF form and submit it. We want to be able to do stuff like that through the app. And one of the big ones we're looking to have go through there are things like animal care and looking up animals online and being able to put a hold on an animal in the shelter versus right now you've got to call 311, we'll send over an escalation form to the shelter, and then a person there will, once it gets to them, call you back and schedule things. So we want to be able to, cut out all of our part there and have that be able to go directly over to our animal care group, for instance. We think there's a really big opportunity there to answer questions through the app versus, through an IVR, through talking to somebody. So that's really what we're looking to do there. And I think having a custom app makes that easier to do versus having an off-the-shelf. Because if you're going with an off-the-shelf, you have to get them to make that change for, and I don't know, I've never worked with them, but it seems like you'd have to have that change made on a bigger scale than just for individual cities. But I'll allow other people to talk in depth about that.
This is Mary. If I can speak to that just a little bit. We had that same conversation, and it's interesting. We've chosen to go the other way, to have the separate apps so they can be specialized for what their purpose is. One of the interesting things about the 311 app that we're doing is that it allows us to add buttons on the app to link to the other apps, which we think is going to solve that program. So that's the approach we're taking on it. But it's interesting to hear your view on it too.
And then you would kind of, so like, let's say I don't have the Trail app, it would send me to the store to download it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And once you had it, then it would just open that up for you.
Yeah, we were talking about, there's the whole, do you have individual, an Apple app and an Android app? We kind of have been kicking around the idea of doing our app as an HTML5 app and then having, the Android and iPhone piece basically just to be kind of a wrapper around the HTML5 page and use the app piece of it just to be able to do notifications and stuff on the handset, but have the whole core functionality just basically be a website.
And we have chosen, we have chosen to do Android and Apple, and some of the reason we went third party and will continue to do that to some degree is that with continuing budget crunchiness here, our IT staff just continues to shrink, and we felt that we couldn't continue to support it in-house.
Yeah.
Actually, Jeff Bradley asked a question similar to that, is how to manage, if we're managing the portal here, I'm assuming he's talking about Montgomery County in-house. And we do that with our existing IT department. We have a group of folks who are, they're over in IT, or over in our DTS department, but they're actually detailed to us. And so they help us manage the portal. We manage the content for the portal, but they manage all the other aspects of the portal, as well as the mobile-enabled portal as well.
I think, Chris, you're answering another question on outbound alerts. That's a real big area of focus for us right now at the City of Edmonton is getting people to subscribe to different pieces of information as well. So certainly the, mobile app is around people giving us some stuff and then pulling from things, but also getting people to, subscribe to what they're looking for. And one of the things that you guys talked about is there's multiple areas within the city, and trying to coordinate things so that it makes it easier for citizens is really one of our goals, because right now we have a lot of different alerts and abilities to sign up for alerts, but we don't have one place that people can actually do it. And I know there are some cities that are doing that, because I think that that's a big opportunity as well, because people are way more open to getting information than we, I think, sometimes think from a city perspective they are. We have we have a big one around snow bans and snow alerts and stuff, and we have 20,000 people that subscribe to that alert alone. So, and it certainly has helped us. And the interesting thing is people don't talk about, we haven't really gone there as whether or not calls have gone away. We wouldn't have got those 20,000 calls on snow, or 20,000, when we're doing snow bans and all that stuff, we wouldn't have normally gotten those calls. But what we've enabled is people to get the information without having to even think about calling. They're not calling us now, but they're just getting good service from the city. So that's one of the things we've recognized, is it isn't always about getting rid of calls, but just giving people new channels of service to feel better about living in their communities.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. From what I've seen, it hasn't really been a call reduction piece. It just lets, I know from my personal experience, there's things that I report through the app as I'm walking through my neighborhood that I would never take the time to call in. And the people who are going to call in tend to call anyway, but we're seeing the same thing. Is we're seeing just increased notification from residents about problems in their neighborhood. But one of the things on notifications I wanted to mention was, we're doing text and email right now for our notifications. I really don't like doing it through text, because it's really easy to have too many text messages go out and get blacklisted by your local wireless carrier as a spammer. And to get around that, you end up having to spend probably $1,000+ a month for an SMS short code. So I really think that being able to have on-device notifications for things is kind of the way of the future with it, because there's no additional cost once it's coded. Whereas with text, we're doing it kind of a cheater style and sending them out in short bursts so we don't get blocked. But it takes more work, and to do it right, it costs more money to do through an SMS versus through an on-device notification.
Yeah, here in Montgomery County, we have something called Alert Montgomery, but that's actually operated out of our emergency management group. But it's primarily related to health and safety, public safety, traffic, schools out, those kinds of things, weather alerts. It's really not focused on the types of services we offer. But our Office of Public Information does tweet out, and then also through Facebook sends out notifications of storm prep ideas, or here's what's happening, here's the weather forecast, that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, we've got a lot of alerts around newsletters as well, some stuff around different rec facilities, sending out, I think there's a big opportunity in, the golf courses are looking at, where they've got open tee times for tomorrow. They're thinking about how to fill capacity as well in some of our programs, which I think is interesting as well.
I think part of the problem for us is because we also have several different messaging and notification systems available to customers, is making sure that our messaging is consistent. And occasionally we'll run into something where there's contradictory information going out to customers because there's so many different channels. And so I think that's one of the things we've been looking at in our county, is how to make sure that we're being consistent in our message on a regular basis. Yeah,
and that's an interesting point. And right now in our city, all of our social media and these text channels and whatnot are all managed by our corporate communications area because of the brand and ensuring consistency. So they're not even managed by 311 per se. They're really managed as a corporate communication event.
Right, and we're partnered with that corporate communications group. So, yeah, we're trying to keep those centralized messages. But you're right, it's a really important thing And when we start contradicting ourselves, it makes a mess in the community.
Well, it's about building some, I mean, these new channels are also, people adopt them very quick, but they also want to feel they're trusted and accurate and all those other things. So you do have to spend that time, you know.
Right.
Anyone using apps against their open data catalogs in your areas?
We're not.
We're not currently doing it. We have the open data published, but it's fairly new for us, and so probably still yet to come.
Yeah, and we're not there yet.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a few things. We're in the process of making all of our rec facilities and programs open, and then using an app against them, and we also have our obviously our transit route times and whatnot are available on. We have our internal app, but we also have a number of third-party apps that have been developed for transit information. So I think that will also grow as you open up some of your data. I mean, because there's some ways to link things that we wouldn't normally think about. So keep that in mind too. Well, we're kind of coming up to 10 o'clock, and I don't hear any or see any more questions. I want to thank all the participants for joining us today and for responding to our polls, and I especially like to thank our panelists, Stacy, Chris, Mary, and Leslie for spending the time sharing some of their experiences on going mobile. And again, I encourage all of you to join us in a few months in San Antonio from May 4th to 6th. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.